Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. The mock-up phase is an important step when doing any engine swap. Sam and Doug have fabricated custom mounts to install the new V8 engine in the Alpha 1 GTO. During the mock-up, they could check for clearance and fitment issues. If any modifications need to be made, they could be done before the final installation.
Well, we are at the most exciting portion of our project, and in our case, we're going to be doing a small block Ford Windsor pushrod motor stroked out to a 347 in place of the factory 280Z motor that we went with.
Yeah, and the really cool part about it is the 280Z motor weighs about 450 pounds, and the motor that we build is going to weigh about 425. Triple the horsepower, gobs and gobs of torque. Really a out-of-sight thing to do.
It's going to be awesome once it's done. Now, we have a fiberglass front end, as you can see, with a really long nose. So Doug decided, let's go ahead and take it off because we didn't have the room that we needed to get the engine hoist and get the engine in the engine bay. So that was a great idea.
Yeah, and it's real important. This engine's going to go in and out, because we're going to have to make sure we've got all the proper angles, all the proper measurements, and what you don't want to do is scratch or destroy or do anything inside of the engine bay or on the bodywork of the car. So for us, it's just easy to move the front clip. The engine mounts, everything that was here was custom built, so we had to get everything into place. We had to make all of the cuts, and remember, always measure twice, cut once. Then we had to weld everything in just to make sure we got everything just right. And it's also real important to make sure your engine is level. So you want to make sure your rake and your engine level is correct. Makes the build go a lot easier.
And you know, Matt did an awesome job with the cross member, the motor mounts, everything that he fabricated under there. Not only did it stiffen the frame rails that holds the engine in place.
Yeah, and that's real important because when we're going ahead and we're laying some real power down, that frame is going to want to twist. So as we did this, we were able to box everything, stiffen everything up to handle the horsepower and torque.
And then you have to remember that when you're welding your parts in and you're putting your motor in, you got to make it serviceable. So if you notice when we took it out, we put notches in because the motor mounts are angled, and that gives you room for the straight studs to go down into those notches and be able to be bolted into place.
Make it so you can get to all the nuts and bolts and everything on it.
And what we did was we went with factory Mustang motor mounts that are rubber insulated, because when you guys go to solid motor mounts or you go to a urethane motor mount, it becomes really hard on the car. It vibrates it to death.
Yeah, it's really tough on it, and by going with the rubber, it softens everything out. This car is going to be driven on the track as well as the street, so we want to make it really streetable.
Absolutely, and those rubber insulators make a huge difference. And we did all this for mock-up. We're going to take the engine out, we're going to final dress it up, we're going to go into the engine bay and remove anything else that we need to do, or maybe even gusset the crossmember if need be. You want to consider everything. One, you want to make sure you got plenty of room for your exhaust, your headers, your front accessories, your radiator and fan, but you also want to make sure that they got the right rake to the car, to the motor in the car, so that you can access the bell housing bolts and be able to service the transmission. Now, there were some things that we removed, like for instance, the stock fuel system, because we're going to be running our own. We removed a lot of the AC lines because they were in our way, so we're going to go in with custom lines, and we got room for headers. We took out all the emissions because we don't need those things anymore.
Yeah.
We used some old valve covers because we didn't want anything to be scratched up. We mocked up the oil pan. It's very important that when you're doing this, you mock up the oil pan with the motor and everything so that you know the oil pan is going to clear.
Yeah, and one of the really cool things here is we went ahead and we measured everything out. And always make sure you take the time and you measure it twice, mock it up the best you can. We used the hem saw when we were going ahead and cutting everything out. We had good, perfect straight cuts. It was a beautiful way to do it. It made our job really easy.
Absolutely, and you know the tools make everything so much better, and the quality of the work at the end is that much better.
Oh, yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're done mocking this up. We're going to take it out. We're going to finish up the engine by dressing it up, and then we're going to take the engine bay, take out everything else we need, and get it ready to go to the body shop.